I wanted to welcome you guys to our 4th annual Why We Play event. We started this event, Jeanne Hess, who was the longtime volleyball coach and now retired volleyball coach from Kalamazoo College, started this event with her, the athletes at Kalamazoo. It's been about 20 years ago that she started this. It was such a hit at Kalamazoo that she shared it with the other league schools. And so we started doing it, like I said, about 4 years ago. We do it twice a year. Fall sport athletes get it now. And then the winter and spring sport athletes, seniors, are offered in the spring to do this. It has become quickly probably one of our most beloved events because the stories that your seniors are going to share, they're personal, they're touching, they're inspiring, they're impactful, they're powerful, they're funny, and I think every one of us we really enjoy hearing from them. So I am not going to talk any longer, but I am going to invite our first speaker, soccer senior Kellen Hinchy.
Hello, everyone. All right. Like Julie said, my name is Kellen Hinchy, and I'm a senior on the soccer team. A little bit more about me. I'm from Wheaton, Illinois. It's a western suburb of Chicago, and I'm in the dual degree program with Notre Dame, majoring in physics and civil engineering. I have played soccer at St. Mary's all 4 years here, and I've been a captain for 3 of them. I want to start this off with a little quote most of you will probably know. In Lilo and Stitch, Lilo says, "Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind." If you replace Ohana with soccer, you've got my family. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and all of us played soccer growing up. As soon as I was born, there was a soccer ball pillow kicked into my crib. When I was 5 years old, my oldest brother Ben left home to play soccer at Butler University. The summer after his freshman year, I started playing competitively. Ben was helping coach soccer at a camp, and my mom signed up my sister and me, and this way she got 3 kids out of the house, all at one time, which is kind of a minor miracle in my family. That fall, I joined my first rec league through the Glen Ellen Park District, and my dad was my coach. At 9 years old, I started playing travel soccer for Raider Soccer Club. My dad was still my coach, and Ben and his girlfriend Lisa had both graduated college and were coaching too. Lisa's youngest sister was also playing for the club on the U14 team. Ben coached her team, and he would wake me up early every Saturday morning to go to their practice with him. Imagine me at 9 years old playing soccer with high school freshmen. I was not very good in comparison, and I never really played in the game-like drills, but I looked up to that team a lot. They were the players that I wanted to be when I grew up. In 2009, Ben and Lisa bought the soccer club and renamed it Synergy. That same year, Lisa became the head coach of my team. From then until graduation, my team stayed pretty much the same, and my teammates quickly became my best friends. Those girls made my love for soccer grow exponentially. We went to tournaments all over the place in Kalamazoo, Memphis, St. Louis, South Bend, Indianapolis, and honestly, a ton of other cities I can't even remember. After years of long soccer weekends, team parties, and carpool rides to practice, my teammates and even their parents became like my second family. As I got older, I took on a new role in my soccer career. I started helping coach some of the younger Synergy players at camps and spring clinics. My first year as a true assistant coach for one of their teams, I helped Lisa coach a U8 co-ed team and a U9 boys team. And then my senior year of high school, I was the assistant coach for U12 boys team. That year, I had so much fun coaching and playing with them too. They were a competitive and eager group, and they really loved to learn and play soccer. They had a passion and excitement for the game that reminded me how much fun soccer can be. Not only does my family play and coach soccer, but we also love to watch the game. My favorite soccer watching buddy is my dad. Whether it's a professional team or my niece's rec team, men's, women's, in the stadium or on TV, whether it's commentated in English or Spanish, because we have watched both, my dad and I can sit back, watch, and enjoy just about any soccer game. We've been known to wake up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday just to watch a soccer game on TV. And when my family went to Paris, I stopped at nothing to make sure that we could see some real live European soccer. And I was definitely not disappointed. We got to see 2 soccer games while we were in France, and they were honestly the highlight of my trip. The culture of soccer in Europe is so much different than the soccer culture here, and I could feel the passion of the fans and players as soon as I walked into the stadiums. I play because I'm reminded of that feeling of excitement and energy every time I step onto the field. Around that same time, I was starting to think about what I wanted for my future. It wasn't a question of if I would be playing soccer in college, but where. After a 2-week-long trip to the East Coast with my mom, attending soccer camps and doing campus visits, I still hadn't found the right school. My mom told me I should look into St. Mary's, and in typical teenage fashion, I didn't think much of her advice. She pestered me the entire way home from Philadelphia, which was a 12-hour drive, until I finally agreed to do a campus visit to St. Mary's. When we got to campus, I really wasn't sold. We met with Julie at the end of our campus tour at the old Angela building, and if you know what that looked like, you'll understand how I just was not interested. But my mom was. She knew well before I did that St. Mary's was the perfect place for me. And luckily, I slowly came around, and I'm very glad I did. Since coming to St. Mary's, I have experienced my fair share of ups and downs. As some of you may know, the soccer team my freshman year was interesting, to say the least. There were a lot of different personalities, and we were a very young team with a brand new coach. There were times during my first season when I questioned why I was putting myself through the frustration, but at the end of the season, I was determined to stick it out another year. I knew Coach had been recruiting, and there were a lot of talented players coming in the next year, and I figured it really couldn't get worse. Sophomore year was unfortunately another really tough year, but again, I was determined that the next year would be better, and it was. The personalities and talents of the current sophomores and juniors that have stuck it out through thick and thin have turned around my entire soccer experience here. I finally had a college team that I felt comfortable with, and this year it only got better. The team this year has reminded me why I play soccer, not just for the love of the game, but because my teammates are my best friends, my St. Mary's family. My team has made my senior year so special, from Friday night team dinners and other shenanigans, to our first team bonding watching She's the Man. I have made friends and memories that will last a lifetime. And luckily for all of us, I'll be back next year to watch all your home games. While the team has changed a lot over the past 4 years, the one constant I have had was the full support of my family. My parents have put hundreds of miles on their cars just to see me play, coming to home games and away games. My siblings have watched my games over the live stream and texted me the entire time, giving me encouragement and, as always, things to work on. My granddad even drove up from Kentucky just to watch me play in my last ever soccer game. No matter how great or small the gesture, I appreciate my family's dedication to watching me play the sport we all love and supporting me and encouraging me to become the best player I can. I play to make my family proud. For me, soccer is so much more than just a sport. It's my way of life, how I connect to my family and my friends, what I do for fun, and my stress reliever. Fortunately, soccer will never stop being a part of my life. Whether it's waking up at 6 a.m. on Saturdays to catch an early Premier League game or coaching a team through the heat of the summer and the cold of winter, soccer will always be there. Because the most wonderful thing about soccer for me is that it has a wonderful ability to connect people. To end this, I just want to say a simple thank you to the St. Mary's soccer program and the entire athletic department. And thanks to my teammates who have become my best friends. Thank you to my family for supporting me, encouraging me, and teaching me to never give up, even when it's the easy option. My St. Mary's experience would not have been the same without each and every one of you helping me along the way. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Shannon Hamilton. I'm a senior on the cross country team. And a little background about myself, I'm from Quechee, Vermont, and as many people think that's a funny name, Quechee. And I'm majoring in biology right now. I'm intending to go to veterinary school in the near future and also minoring in environmental studies. So I'm going to start talking about my journey into competitive running and the people who aided me along the way. So when I was younger, I started sports in the 3rd grade when I first moved to Vermont from Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was a whirlwind of a ride. I did every sport, every season. I loved it so much. And I played soccer, basketball, softball, lacrosse, and on top of that, I did travel soccer, I did travel basketball, and yeah, so that was great. And bless my mom's heart who drove me to every practice, dealt with all my stinky shoes, my stinky jersey. She was always there to clean up my mess after every single game, meet, game. It was great. And when I first started running, it was very late in my career. So it actually started, the first trickle I had in my life was actually in middle school when I was the only girl on the basketball team who loved running suicides. So shockingly enough, basketball and soccer and lacrosse during the time in middle school when I was playing those sports, I was never really the star. And a lot of my really good friends were always the stars of the team. They were very good, they were very serious, and sometimes it's kind of hard to be on the back burner on a lot of teams. So I never really took sports super seriously. It's just something I did for a social life aspect during middle school times. But during basketball, running suicides was my time to shine. As many girls dreaded it, I was like, I took it seriously every single time. I was so competitive and I wanted to be first in everyone because I knew I could do it. I remember one time in middle school, my basketball coach was actually the track coach at the time, and he was running with me when we were doing 100 laps across the court, and he was jogging along with me, and Taylor Swift was playing on the speakers, and he was trying to convince me to join the track team. Of course, at the time I was playing lacrosse, so that was not even an option, and I was just like, yeah, totally, yeah, sounds good. So that was that was my first time really being exposed. I didn't really know what track was at that time. I mean, I was in middle school and really didn't know much about it at all. I didn't have any of my siblings play it, and I just didn't know how it worked. Then when I got into high school, my brother was on the track team before me. And that's when I first kind of found out what track was, and it was really interesting. He really only did it, he was a football player, so he really only did it just to stay in shape for football. And I remember it was pretty funny, he's gonna hate me for this, but it was pretty funny watching him fall over a hurdle one time at a meet. So that's really my only exposure to track. So in high school, my freshman year, I ended up joining the track team for the spring because I had some sad circumstances with lacrosse. I had some issues with some girls that were just a little bit of bullies on the team, and I just did not like the team aspect. I really loved lacrosse, I loved my coach, but it was something I really had to sit down and think to myself, is it worth the struggle? Like, I'm going into high school and I don't want to deal with that, and it really frustrated me. So I'm really sad that strayed me away from that sport. But in all reality, I think it really drew me to running, which is wonderful because I ended up doing that, and I hopefully will do that the rest of my life. So when I joined the team, I ended up joining because I made some new friends in middle school, one of those being my best friend right here running with me, Paige Kehoe, and she ended up joining the team and a couple of my other friends. So when we were first going around the first day of practice of track, I will never forget, we literally would run up the gym and our coach would tell us how to run. And apparently I was doing it wrong this whole time, so that was crazy. And the coach would go around and be like, do you want to be sprinting or long distance? So being a freshman, not knowing anything about track, I was like, my brother did sprinting and he told me it was the easiest, so that's why I chose sprinting. But then all my friends ended up choosing distance, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna change my mind and go with them. So I ended up switching to distance at that moment. And then My freshman year, I really stuck with my best friend Paige. At the time, I was a swinger for varsity soccer. I was the captain of the JV team for basketball. So I really was taking those sports more seriously. Track was just exactly like everyone else on my high school team. Everyone used it as a back burner sport. It was really just a sport to get in shape for other sports, or to just to have that third season sport to do something. And that really was the majority of my team. And my school really looked at that way too. Track, we didn't have a track. We weren't allowed on the football field because we were going to ruin the football field for the football players. So we literally ran around a neighborhood that was roughly probably 700 meters. We literally had no idea what distance was, and we just run around this circle concrete neighborhood every single day for practice. So it got a little boring, but that aspect I think definitely changed me. And during freshman year, I just didn't take it seriously, and I loved running with my best friend Paige. Even during workouts, we would just talk the whole time during workouts. So obviously it was not the biggest step in my running career, but it was my first exposure. Then my sophomore year, I actually strayed away from running with my best friend. I became really good friends with a guy named Matthew, and Matthew became my best friend, and he actually was the fastest boy on the track team. And he was honestly probably the only person that took distance running seriously. And so we got to talking, and when we became friends, we really got this underlying competitiveness with each other. And that really pushed me. So I started kind of straying away from my best friend Paige, and I started pushing myself during workouts more, and I started measuring myself. I never wore a watch. I literally just got a running watch this year, so I never wore a watch. I would always run by my effort. And I think that's what really drove me my sophomore year. I would look at Matthew in front of me, and I would judge the distance between us, and that's how I kept pushing myself. I kept telling myself to make that distance shorter, kept telling myself if I'm not dead by the end of practice, or if I'm not out of breath, I'm not pushing hard enough. And that was a wonderful year, and I started running meets, and I actually started getting first. And at first I was like, oh, these people, it's okay. They're low meets, not a lot of people there. And my coach ended up, my coach Scudder, who is actually our field hockey coach, and our field hockey team was D1. She won National Coach State of the Year for field hockey. So she was really big on field hockey and never really big on track, until I think she met me. And so she sat me down a lot, and after the third meet of me running really well, she sat me down and she was like, Shan, I think you have potential. And I was like, yeah, okay, I think I'm good. I'm okay. Never thought I was anything out of the ordinary until that sophomore year I ran at the Vermont State meet. And at the Vermont State meet, I ran the mile, and I actually ended up winning. So that was definitely the biggest milestone of my life. It was kind of a shock at first. I sat down and I hugged my coach afterward, and I hugged some senior on the team that I've never talked to in my life, and I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So that was awesome. And at first I was like, oh, it was just the way I raced and all that. And then I looked at my time, and my time I think ended up being 15 seconds faster than I've ever ran before. So for a mile, that's a lot. And that was a really exciting time. And then throughout my high school career, this is what drove me into running. I loved track, and track was my sport. I finally became the star, and that idea of just not even the star of the team, I was a star of myself. I felt proud of myself. Every practice, I wanted to push myself, and I think that was really important. And not only, and you'll hear a lot of runners say, especially a lot of distance runners, they talk about how running is an escape. And for me in high school, running was my escape. As many people say it's not a team sport, it was. I loved my team. My team was there every step of the way. My best friend Matthew, my best friend Paige, every race I ran, they would talk me through and said, I'm gonna do better. And that pushed me so much. And especially during times when my parents were not able to come to meets for multiple reasons. When my sister was 17, she was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's the vascular type. And so she was in and out of hospitals for a lot of our life. And my junior year of high school, she actually ended up going into a coma, an induced coma, because she had an aneurysm in her stomach, and we weren't sure why. And it caused so much damage that she ended up being in the coma for 54 days. During this time also, my dad was in Indiana going to school so he could get another degree. So it was just me, my mom, and my brother was already at college. So it was just me and my mom. My mom was at the hospital every single day, and this was right at the end of track season, I want to say. So about 2 months of the series of my mom living at the hospital and me living home alone. It was the end of my track season, and I really appreciate my mom and my dad for really pushing, and the fact that they came to so many meets and so many games for me when they just had so many other things on their mind. Really, it was amazing. And you gotta find that drive, and a lot of the times when they weren't there, it was hard, but you lean on your teammates for that, and that was what really kept driving me. I also just want to point out that top left corner picture is really how I feel when I'm running. It is as fast as I think I'm going, I don't know. That was actually the final stretch of my Vermont mile meet. So yeah. And on top of that, when you have a lot of things going on in your life outside, running is when I came to practice, and it really was my escape. And runners all say that, but it's so true. Soon after, my sister ended up getting a little better. She got out of the hospital coma. My grandmother, I only had one grandmother my entire life, passed away. And so that even made it more hard. And then thinking about college and I just felt very alone. I didn't really know what to do, and all that stuff is just so hard, and I was so jumbled up about college. I didn't even think about running in college, and I don't know why I never thought about that. It really slipped my mind. I had some schools email me, but they weren't schools I was really thinking about. I was dead set on coming back to Indiana because I loved Indiana. I was born here, and I just wanted to come back. It was just kind of a calling, really, and that's how I stumbled upon St. Mary's. I never really heard of it. No one in Vermont, of course, knows what St. Mary's is, and so that was very interesting. And I ended up coming here, and that led into my freshman year at St. Mary's. Now, my freshman year, I did not run cross country. I didn't do any sports here. Just was the regular old freshman, and it was really hard. Everyone knows, freshman year's hard, and living that college experience was great, but I just felt very alone, and especially going away from home. I don't know if a lot of people, for most people who do go away from home, I didn't realize I was such a homebody until I left. I really wanted to expand and meet new people, but it's really hard, and I just started doubting myself and everything I did. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, and I just had that midlife crisis beginning of college. So, and toward my end of my freshman year, I was dead set on transferring. I was just not feeling it, and I was worried about financially, maybe if there's other places I could be that I could get more money or all this stuff. And so as a last-ditch effort, end of July, between my freshman and sophomore year, I emailed Jackie, my cross-country coach, and I said, hey, I'm just interested in joining the team. And I don't know, it was really last minute. I didn't know what to do. And I remember her emailing me back, and she was honestly the most open person ever. I've never had a coach like this, and I've seen Jackie run before, and I've seen the team, and I always felt intimidated. I've never ran cross-country before. I had no idea how it worked. No idea. And my team in high school had 5 people on it, so I just never heard of it and didn't know how it worked. And so I emailed her, and she was like, all right, try to shoot for a 22-minute 3-mile. So between that month, between our first time trial run and when I emailed her, I ran 3 miles every single day as hard as I could, and I will never forget that day. I think it was literally 5 days before we had to go back to St. Mary's. I ran under 22, and I ran inside, and I was like, Mom. And she's like, how'd you do? And I was like, I ran into 22. And we sat there and we hugged, just like, oh my God. It was so exciting. I was like, oh, and then we got to the time trial and I ran into 22 and I was just so happy, and I was really stressed out about making the team. But it ended up, we all came together, and oh my gosh, like you gotta think, like I never really experienced other girl runners in high school that took running very seriously. So when I ran into girls that were like, oh, you need to like go to the bathroom 50 times before a meet, I was like, I thought that was just me. Like, that's awesome. Like, or like, you know, all these TMI things that runners have that you share, and I'm just like, wow, you guys talk about this? That's cool. So that was awesome. I loved it so much. And I will never forget my first day of practice. Jackie gave us the option to run 4 to 6 miles, and before that I've only ran 5 miles ever. So think about it, my sophomore year at college, I've never ran more than 5 miles in my life. So first day of practice, of course, I ran 6 miles. And thank God Adele was there, because Adele talked the whole way, and I did not realize you could talk and smile and laugh while running 6 miles, but it's possible. And it flew by. I was insane. I was like, I've never ran with people before. It was so cool. And so that really drove me into the sport. And then that really just changed my perspective on running in a whole new, I never ran that distance, so that was great. Then, besides having such an amazing and understanding coach that drove me to be on this team, Adele was a great captain to have, but there was also one person that meant so much to me. Anna McClowry changed my life, and I'm not exaggerating that at all. She literally changed my life. Freshman year, I looked at everything so negatively. It was so hard. I struggled so much. And Anna McClowry, can I tell you, that girl is an angel. Like, every single day she came to practice smiling, laughing every day, and she just told me, she's like, you know, like, you just gotta be optimistic, look at the bright side. And even through running, like, she just was so optimistic, and I was like, you know, like, I want to be her. And that changed my aspect on life. I looked at every new thing, I looked at every obstacle I had in such a new light, and it drove me just to be a better person. And I thank her for that so much every single day. And if I never joined this team, I would have never had that, and I have no idea where I would be right now. And handling all the obstacles I've had through college, I just think I wouldn't have been able to get over them without having that aspect in my life. So I just want to thank Anne McClowry so much for really changing me. And I just want to mention that every race to this day, she will text me, Katie and Maura, before every race wishing us luck. And I just think that's so adorable, and it means so much. And another thing that I noticed was, like, I never had that connection to St. Mary's my freshman year. So finally, when I got to my sophomore year, when I got to wear that French cross on my jersey, I think I felt I was a part of St. Mary's. This was my time, this was my team, and this was it. These were my people, and I was finally a belle. I loved calling myself a belle. I knew what a belle was finally, and I found that definition. And not only did I feel part of St. Mary's, I was representing it now, and I love that. I can't wait to graduate through here and be like, yeah, I graduated from St. Mary's, and I did this, and I did that. That's amazing. And I just want to thank my family and everyone who's guided me along my running career, because it can be tough. So in conclusion, why do I run? I run for myself, I run for my family, I run for my coach, and most importantly, I run for my team. You're gonna have some decisions in your life that you're gonna regret, but I can tell you right now, one of the decisions that you will never ever regret is being on a team. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Katie. I am a senior on the cross country team. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a political science and philosophy major, and I've been running cross country at St. Mary's for the past 4 years. This is a simple fact. However, if you told this to my 13-year-old self, she in her Abercrombie t-shirt and side pony would have in no way believed you. After all, she was a soccer player. She was going to be as good as her siblings and her dad, maybe even better, and make her family proud. She would get a full ride to a great D1 school, her family cheering her on the whole way, and then turn down an offer to go pro so she could devote time to her wedding planning job and her rich husband. 13-year-old me was going to have a great life. But in case you haven't picked up on it, things don't often go the way we expect them. This is not a D1 school, and I am not about to become a rich wedding planner. I could have never guessed that I'd end up where I am today. So I thought it'd be interesting to write my middle school self a letter. Give her a bit of a heads up. Tell her why she ends up where she does and why it's the best thing that will ever happen to her. Here goes. Dear Katie, before I get started, that boy with curly hair that you think is really cute, he's gay. You're welcome. Now, I know that you think you have these perfect plans for your life, this ideal image of how things are going to unfold. That's totally normal and it's okay. I just want you to know that when your plans start unraveling and dreams begin to change, it's for the best. I know you feel like there's a lot of pressure on you right now to fit a certain mold. I know what it's like to grow up in a community where everyone knows you as one of those blonde Glen kids who play soccer. Spoiler, that family epithet will only grow stronger as all of your siblings go on to have great soccer careers and play at D1 schools. Regardless, having your dad coach you and having this sport be part of your life from before you can remember is incredibly meaningful. The endless Saturdays spent at soccer tournaments, the long drives and smelly cleats exiled to the garage, the countless games of soccer, tennis, and World Cup played with your siblings in the backyard. These are and forever will be a part of you. I'm not asking you to belittle any of that. I'm asking you to recognize that just because this sport is a part of you and your family doesn't mean that it's all your identity is rooted in. You won't become any less of a Glen if you don't play soccer. I know that's your fear right now. You didn't make the Olympic development team the first time around like your siblings did. The girls on your own team are starting to leave for higher ranked clubs and it doesn't feel the same anymore. Every time you lose a game or have a bad practice, all you can think about is how you're not as good as you're supposed to be. That feeling sucks, Katie. Not feeling good enough is not fun. And feeling like a quitter sucks too. And you're gonna feel like that for a while, because you will quit. By some grace of God, you'll decide that you're tired of constantly comparing yourself to your siblings and trying to live up to this perfect standard you set for yourself. This is a wisdom you'll have to remind yourself of many times over the next few years, but eventually it'll set in. Eventually, you'll feel more yourself than you ever have before. You'll try cheerleading, for which you'll forever be made fun of, but the pictures are worth it, I promise. And then tennis for a while. You'll even go back to soccer and learn how to love it despite not being the best on the team. But the best thing that will hands down ever happen to you, Katie, is cross country. You've always been a little weird, let's be honest. You've always liked to run, and you like the solitude and how it lets you think. You like the challenge, how it's just you and your pain and you're in complete control of which one wins. There's something about it that you can't really put words to. Needless to say, choosing to run cross country is not going to be a hard decision for you. You always felt drawn to it in a different way than any other sport. This one isn't about your dad or your siblings or anyone else's expectation for you. It's about you. I know what you're thinking. Taylor and Thomas ran cross country too, and they were good. Why get into another sport where you'll be compared? The only answer I can give you is that it's going to be different this time. There's something so personal about running, and it will teach you, among many other things, the invaluable lesson to run your own race. Running will ask you to give everything you have day in and day out, and gift you with the reward of knowing that that is enough. You'll learn to be happy as long as you gave it your all, and accept that some days other people's best may be better than your own. This is a bit of a spoiler, but that wisdom will come in handy when your younger sister Ellie wins the state championship, of course without almost any training, your senior year and nudges you off the top 10 podium. Sounds terrible, right? But see, it will become one of your favorite memories. You'll be so proud of her and of yourself, and grateful that you got to share the sport you love with your sister. Of course, this isn't the only gift that running will give you. It's going to give you your best friends. Friends that teach you how to both lift people up and allow yourself to be lifted up. It will give you a family to turn to when your one at home feels like it's falling apart. You'll grow to love these girls through countless pasta dinners, long runs, snot rockets, and mid-run trips to the bathroom. More than any other sport you've played, there's something special about the bond between runners. I still can't tell you exactly why. I think it might have something to do with the fact that you show up each and every day willing to work so hard that you can barely breathe, all in order to better yourself and your team. The moments that you feel like you can't possibly give any more are the moments when you look over to your teammate and see how hard they're working and realize that you can't give up because they aren't giving up. These girls will be there for you through the countless MRIs, x-rays, and stress fractures. They'll be the only ones who understand why the words, "just don't run on it," are the meanest things anyone can ever say to you. The high school team you're about to join is full of some of the most wonderful, hardworking, intelligent, and kind people you'll ever meet. I know you feel a little lost right now, but I promise you're about to find your place and your people. I wish I could tell you it's all smooth sailing from there, but it's not. You'll have to leave those girls who became your family and move on to college, and it's going to be hard. You'll make a bit of a radical choice, and when you tell people you're going to this tiny all-women's Catholic college in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, a lot of people are going to ask you if you're doing it to either become a nun or a lesbian. Tip, if you really want to throw them off, just say both. I'm not going to lie. Your first year at St. Mary's is not going to be easy. You're going to feel incredibly lonely and desperately want to go home. You're going to question your decision daily and have a countdown on your phone for the day that the transfer application to UGA opens. But there's something that saves you, that makes all of it worth it and teaches you how to grow in wisdom, strength, and patience, even in the darkest of times. Want to guess? Running. You came to St. Mary's largely because you felt like you weren't done running. You knew you had more to give, and if running taught you anything in high school, it's that you don't stop until you know you've given it everything. There will be other schools where you could go run, but one spring day on a visit to St. Mary's, your junior year of high school, you'll meet this woman named Jackie. You'll be really mad at Mom for bringing up all of your hip injuries and stress fractures during the meeting, but then the conversation will turn to what kind of person you are and what you value. The next thing you know, both your mom and this woman you just met, but instantly trust, are crying, and you realize there's something special here. Fast forward a year and a half, and this woman is your college cross-country coach. And the girls you met on your visit, who seem nice but also kind of weird, they're your teammates. This group will become your family, Katie. Over the next 4 years, you'll gain a total of 33 new sisters. It sounds cheesy to call them sisters, I know, but that's what they are. They see you at your worst and at your best, and they love you all the same. They'll give up their spot in a race so your family can see you run. They'll hold your hand when you're unconscious in an ice bath, drive you to get MRIs and bone scans, listen when you need to talk about your parents' divorce. They'll be there through it all. Your 4 years at St. Mary's are not going to be easy. For lack of better words, you're going to go through some tough shit. You'll be diagnosed with a chronic disease. You'll drive your athletic trainers crazy with constant injuries. You'll lose some people in your family and come scarily close to losing your dad. But through everything, aside from your faith, there will be one other constant: running. Even when injuries stop you from running, you'll always be a runner. This sport will change you. It will become a part of you. Running will help you get through those hard times because it will teach you that it's when things get hard that you get better. When it hurts during a race, you know that you're doing the right thing. You know that you're pushing yourself and reaching new potentials. Running will also teach you to look to your teammates when you feel like you can't keep going, and to be strong for them when they, in turn, need you. People are going to ask why you run all the time. This will always be really hard to answer, and it'll take you a while to figure out why it is so hard. But eventually you'll realize it's an impossible question to answer, because for us, it's never been a question. Why we run has never crossed our minds. It's like asking why someone breathes or why someone has blonde hair. It's who we are. It's what we do. Why would you ever stop doing something that gives you so much in return? How could you ever turn away from something that has taught you to never stop pushing? It would be the ultimate paradox. At the end of the day, Katie, you don't need to explain why you run, and it's okay that you don't really understand it yourself. Just know that you're making the right decision, and that I'm proud of you. Thank you for doing the hard things, for making the scary choices, for always giving it everything you've got. It will all be worth it, I promise.
this way. Yeah, thank you. Do you guys see why I love this event? You guys, our speakers, thank you so much. You guys did such a beautiful job, and we know it's not easy to get up here and tell such personal stories, but so impactful, and we just absolutely love it. So could I have all of you guys come forward, please? We just have a little thank you gift for you guys for sharing your story with us. So, and we definitely want to get a picture. We'll do that in a minute. But you guys, let's give them another round of applause, and thank you so much. And that does conclude, in a minute, our event tonight. But I do want you to make sure that before you leave, you check your space and make sure you throw everything away. Basketball has a home game this Wednesday at 7 o'clock against Elmhurst, so come and support the Bells. And I am shamelessly going to promote our rummage sale, which opens again tomorrow from 1 to 3 in the St. Michael's Lounge. But that is it. So you guys, thank you so much. You're a wonderful audience and great group of women and men back there. Thank you.